Welcome to channel Qtomation. In previous sessions, we have seen how to handle drop-down elements. We have also seen drop-down in which select tag is present, how to select a single element from that drop-down. Then we have also seen different type of assertions which we can use in drop-downs. For example, counting elements or checking presence of specific element in drop-down. Today we will see one more type of drop-down, that is Bootstrap drop-down. Handling drop-downs can vary depending on whether you are dealing with a normal HTML drop-down or a Bootstrap drop-down. Both drop-down types are essentially HTML elements. But Bootstrap drop-downs may have additional complexity due to their styling and behavior. These type of drop-downs are typically styled using custom HTML and CSS classes. And we might have to locate the drop-down button element and click it to open the drop-down menu first. And then locate the specific option element you want to interact with. So these drop-downs are a bit different from normal select tag drop-downs. So if I want to show you one simple example of Bootstrap drop-down, I have one website. I will just open that website so that we will be able to see such Bootstrap drop-down. So on this page, if you see, there is one drop-down which is having text as none selected. When I open this drop-down, there are multiple options which are present. For example, jQuery tutorial, Bootstrap tips, HTML, and so on. And if you inspect this drop-down, let me just open the inspector. If you inspect this drop-down, it is not having any select tag. If you highlight this element, in previous example when we have seen the drop-downs, those were having select tag. But this is basically a Bootstrap drop-down which is having button tag. It is not containing any select tag or any options in it. So this drop-down open when we click on this. It is not having any select tag. Instead of that, it is having button tag. And also from this drop-down, we can select multiple options as well. If you see, I can select multiple options at a time. In our previous examples, when we saw basic HTML drop-down with select tag, we were able to select only single item from the drop-down. But in this drop-down, we can select multiple items as well. So this is basically a Bootstrap drop-down. So nowadays, technology is evolving very fast. So front-end technology is also evolving. So instead of normal basic select and drop type of drop-downs, there is possibility that most of the website nowadays can also have this type of drop-downs, that is Bootstrap drop-down. So in our test cases, we might have some requirement where we have to select more than one options as well. So I will show you one practical example. So my requirement is, I want to open this drop-down. Then I want to click on HTML and CSS tricks. So these two options I want to select from this drop-down. So in previous session when we had select tag, we have used select option method. But for Bootstrap drop-down, we don't use that method. We have to use some other approach. So let me show you practically how we can perform this action in Bootstrap drop-down. So let's open Visual Studio Code. I am just copying one of the syntax from our previous file. Then I will create a new file. Let's create a new file. I am naming it as Bootstrap dropdown demo.spec.js. So we have created one file. I am just pasting the syntax. I am just changing the name. So let's say I am just going to name it as Bootstrap dropdown demo. We have a sync keyword. I will just remove this part. Let me just remove this code. Now we can start opening this URL. So I want to open this web page. So I'm just copying this URL. Let's paste it here. So this step will launch the browser and it will open this web page. After opening this web page, what is the first step? So let me just refresh this page. So once you open this website, let me just refresh this page. So initially when it opens, there will not be any option selected. So first we have to click on this drop down. So first we have to identify this locator and we have to perform click action. So if you inspect it, let's inspect it. It is present inside the button tag. Title equals to none selected. So I am just using this attribute and write the XPath. So button tag, in that I am just typing @title equals to none selected. So it is highlighting that specific drop down element. So we can use this XPath. I am just copying this and we can click on that. So what is the syntax? Await page.locator. In this we have to pass this XPath and then we have to click on that. So that's why I'm using .click method. So once you click on this, it will open the drop down options. Now our next step is, what we are going to do? We are going to find such XPath which will find out all these options. I want to find out XPath which will find out and highlight all these options one by one, so that we can store this element in one variable and then we can use for loop to iterate through these elements one by one. We can fetch the text of this element. Then we will compare if that element text is HTML or CSS strict. We have to click on those options. So that is the approach we will follow. So first, let's find out some XPath for this element. If you see label, it is highlighting the label attribute, label tag, class equals to checkbox. So let me try to write that XPath. So label, which is a tag name, class equals to checkbox, @class equals to checkbox. So if you see, let me just check. So label spelling is incorrect, LABEL. Now if you see, it is highlighting all these 5 elements, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Now what we will do, we will just use this XPath. Let me just copy this, and inside this label, if you see, this is the text which we want to fetch. So I'm just going to use this XPath. So let's create one constant. Let's say options equals to await page dot. I want to capture multiple elements. So this XPath is pointing to multiple elements. So we have to use 2 times $sign. In this we have to pass this locator. So all these elements are stored in these options. Now we can use the for loop. So I will just use for loop. Inside this I will define for constant single option of options. So from these options we will fetch a single option in this, and then we will fetch text from that and we will store it in, let's say, option underscore text option equals to await option dot text content method. It will fetch the text of this option. So it will fetch this text so that we can use those texts to check whether we want to click on that specific value or not. So I am storing that text in this option text, After that, we can use if condition. If this option text dot includes, which option I want to click? HTML and CSS tricks. So I'm just passing that text here. If it is option text, if it is HTML, and then we have to use or condition because we want to click on second option as well, that is CSS tricks. So I will just use or operation, or option underscore text includes CSS tricks. So I'm just using this text. So if the option is HTML or CSS tricks, we have to click on those. That's why we are using or condition. So it will click on both these checkboxes. So that is the condition which we are adding here. And this is the if block. And if that option text includes HTML, or if that option text includes CSS tricks as well, in both of these cases we want to click on this option. So in that case we have to just click on that option. So it will click on that option. After that, what we can do, outside of this for loop, we can simply use some timeout. So I'm just using some timeout so that we can see the operation in real time. Otherwise it will happen so fast that we will not be able to see it. So I'm adding some timeout of 5 seconds. Let's save this file and let's execute this file. So what this code will do, it will launch this web page. It will find that drop down locator. It will click on that. Once that Bootstrap drop down is open, all the options are open. It will capture all those elements in these options. And from these options, every single element is fetched here in for loop. Then we are fetching the text of that element. And we are checking if that text contains HTML, then click on that. If that text contains CSS tricks, then also click on that. So that's why we are using or condition here. So it will open this web page. It will click on this drop down. It will check the options in the for loop. If that text contains HTML or CSS tricks, it will click on it. It will click on it. So that is the operation which we have automated now. So now I will execute this test case. So let's execute this operation of selecting elements from Bootstrap dropdown. So I will just open terminal. Inside this terminal, let's execute. What is the file name? We have to give the file name as well. npx playwright test bootstrap underscore dd underscore demo dot spec.js, that is file name. And we are executing this file now. -- headed -- project equals to chromium, so that it will be executed in Chromium browser in UI mode, that is headed mode. So let's see whether it is able to select HTML and CSS tricks options from that Bootstrap dropdown or not. So it is launching the browser. It will open that website. If you see, it is clicking that drop down and it has selected HTML and CSS tricks. Now what I will do, instead of HTML and CSS tricks, I will select some other options. Let's select AngularJS and Bootstrap tips. So what I would do, Bootstrap tips and AngularJS. So what I will do, I will simply pass Bootstrap tips or AngularJS. So now these two options should be selected by this code. So let's execute this file one more time. This time these two options should be selected. So that's what modification we have done here. So let's see whether it is able to select these options or not. So it will launch the test case. Let's save this file. It will launch the browser. It will launch the browser. It will open that website. After opening that website, if you see, Bootstrap and AngularJS. Both these options got selected. So this is how we can use Playwright to select options from single or multiple options from Bootstrap dropdown. So what we have seen, how to select option from Bootstrap dropdown. So thank you for watching this video. In coming session, we will see some more interesting topic about Playwright with